Hello everybody, this is Adam Ellis and welcome to another short tutorial for my brand new tuition YouTube channel. First of all, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to this video please. There'll be plenty more stuff coming and some cool competitions and offers and things like that. Lots of exciting stuff coming up. Share it to your friends, do you know what I mean? Share the love and all that kind of stuff. Today I'm just going to show you a little bit about groove and percussion and then how I tend to do things. Today I'm working on a 123 beats per minute kind of housey, progressive track, not too sure at the minute. And I've already built up a groove. So unfortunately it's not me building a groove today because these tutorials are more just based on showing you things as they're done. If that makes any sense. It probably doesn't make any sense. But what I'm going to show you today is I'm going to run through the percussion quickly, show you a couple of little things, how I've done it, and then we're going to deconstruct it and put it throughout the majority of the track. So as you can see, I've already done the structure, and I have a method where I have a 10-step starting program for myself and all my clients that I teach around the world. And one of the first steps is to do the structure. Now I'm not going to go into detail with on this at the minute, but as you can see, the structure is done throughout the track. So this makes it very easy for me to put things where they need to go. So what I tend to do is I focus on one element at a time. So once I've done the structure, I'll then move on to the next element. So in this case, it's percussion. And I will work on the full groove, and then I will basically put that throughout the track. So let's just have a look at the kick. It's a nice kick. And then we're going to look at all this percussion. Now, I've actually used the majority of these are loops. However, don't be deceived. I've not just taken them out of a box. Lots of these have been put in the project from various sample packs or whatnot, and I'll often chop them up, change things around, and paste them back together because I can't stand having lots of little bits everywhere. I like everything to be nice and neat and organised. Even that's quite frustrating for me. So yeah, look, don't believe the hype. There's nothing wrong with using loops. Just don't put 15 Vengeance loops in a track and do any editing. But feel free to use loops. Just try and be a little bit more creative with it. Some tracks I'll use all loops. Some tracks I'll use hardly any loops. But I will always make it a priority to go in there, chop out the bits I don't like, and try and be a bit creative with it. And at the end of the day, loops can be messy as well, so you want to keep it nice and clean. Now, just as a little disclaimer, I've not really fully mixed this. I try and get my tracks sounding 60-70% as I'm making them, and then at the end of the process I will do a mix down and get it sounding perfect. However, you still need it to sound how you you still need it to sound in this section how you want it to sound in the final version of a track. It's just going to get an extra 30-40% quality or whatever. So I'll just run through the percussion. Just a nice simple closed hat groove. Notice that on all my channels I keep it simple. Just an EQ with very little going on. Just attending to the lows and highs. So if we look at this one, there's nothing below that area. So take it away. As you get higher, you'll tend to notice that the sound disappears. But if there's nothing in that area, remove it. I also tend to remove everything above 17K because I just find that it's messy. And yeah, over 200 channels or whatever that I sometimes have, that high end can bunch up and become unpleasant. So that's the first one. The second one. Just a nice ride. Right, now we've got this one. So that's like a little closed hat, but it's got some noise in there, and the noise is what I wanted because it basically covers what I call the low mid frequencies, and this is what a lot of producers tend to miss in their tracks and why it sounds thin. And that is basically frequencies between 100 and 2K, and that's why you can see that I've just removed anything in between. Admittedly, this one I cut at 200 because it was getting in the way a little bit, but again, extremely simple. This hasn't actually got frequencies showing there, but if you remove it, it does disappear. It's quite deceiving, that one, but it's more of a filler than actual noise. If you mute it, you hear something disappear, but you can't necessarily hear it. And that's not something I always particularly look for when doing my percussion, but in this case, it works really well. I also put a tremolo on there, and I put a spreader just to spread it across the stereo field. If we listen to it without that stuff, so I've turned it into more of the low mid frequency kind of filling sound rather than something that's going to be really cutting through the mix. But again, what you're noticing is that my EQ is very simple. I'm not doing loads of crazy boosting. Keep it simple. Just remove the lows and highs and find sounds that work well around your kick. You do your kick, then you do one sound, then the other, and then the other. And an analogy I'm using at the minute with all my clients that I teach is like, and it's a bit silly, but producing is like baking a cake almost, where you do one layer at a time. Now, if you try and start doing if you don't get the first layer right, the base layer, and then try and build up on it, it's not going to sound right. And I know it's a bit of a silly analogy, but it really puts it into perspective. Producing is all about layers. Get one layer sounding good, and then build up on it. If you don't get the first layer right, i.e. the kick, then the percussion's not going to sound right. And do you know what I mean? And then the bass isn't going to sound right. So you're doing yourself an injustice. You need to make sure that you're working layer by layer. Similar kind of thing. Now this is a true low mid sound, because as you can see, it's just pumping out frequencies between 200 and 1k, and like I said, that's an area that a lot of producers tend to miss, and it sounds very thin. This kind of frequency will fill out space between your low sub, your sub bass, and your mids, and filling out that space is essential. Again, just a spread and a tremolo on there. You'll notice that the spread is different this time. It's a mistake. 1550. If you're doing frequency spreading or panning, make sure you don't use the same increments as before. So that's a loop just straight out of the box. I don't believe I did anything to that one, but it sounds absolutely fantastic. I'm panning it left 12%, so there'll be something pan right 12%, and that's the next one. So there's a lot more stuff on this. We've got the EQ, basic EQ again. We've got a spread, which spreads it across the stereo field, basically making it wider, giving the sound its own space. We've got a tremolo, which spreads it left and right, quite fast across the stereo field, which adds movement. And then we've got a Novotech character, which is one of my favourite plugins, and I'm using the mix crisper setting, and it just adds I'm trying to think of the word. Yeah, it defines the sound a lot more. Again, just keeping it dead simple. Next one. Again, that one's straight out of the box. Just a nice open hat. Open hat is the drive of the groove. Very important. And a lot of producers miss it out, or it's too quiet. You need to really have a nice defined open hat to add that drive to your track. Generally, I will have two, as you can see there. So this one, dead simple again. That one's a lot more high end, and when you add them together, they sound really nice. One's a lower sound and one's a higher sound. That's a really nice loop. Again, that one was just straight out of the box. I don't think I did anything to that. But it just sounds really nice. It's got all the frequencies in the lows and the highs. It's got that bum, 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 that weird kind of bell kind of sound or whatever it is. And then this is like a little clap loop I found, but I'm keeping it in the percussion bus because I've already got 2 nice solid claps. And it just sounded great layered with these claps. As you can see, I have different bus channels or group channels for every different sound. But rather than putting this one in the clap section, it sounded great as it was in the percussion section, in the percussion bus, so I just left it. Next up. Nice clap. Again, just finding sounds that work well. Now, if we have a look here, I've got a little bit of delay on this clap going from ascend. But that's it, very simple. Now, if you go to the bus channel, which is the channel that they're all being sent to, we've got a basic EQ, just as like a backup. We've got an LFO tool, doing a little bit of side chaining. And then I have a little bit of reverb and a little bit of distortion on ascend. And that's it. Now let's have a look. I'll just put this throughout my entire track now. So yeah, I find it easy just to put it throughout the entire track and then just remove what I don't want. Like I said, one element at a time. I'm focused on percussion and groove now. So I'll just get it done throughout the entire track. And because I've got the structure done, it makes it extremely easy. Why is that going yellow? That's so weird. Now, I might end up changing this. I'm just rushing through it just to give you an example, but Now, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with these sections, but there's a break there, so there's a breakdown too. Just giving myself a rough idea of where things are going to go. So that's a rough idea. I've obviously rushed through that. I would spend a lot more time doing it, but the idea is that you work on the groove fully, get it all working, sounding great, and then basically deconstructing it, put it throughout the track, and then I would do all my automation, made sure I liked how everything was coming in and disappearing, and that's it. Then the groove is done throughout the entire track then, and then I would move on to say the mid bass and do that throughout the entire track, and then I would do the effects and put that throughout the entire track. So that's how I work, working in layers and doing working in layers and concentrating on one element. Because when you concentrate on one element, it means that you're fully focused on that one thing. Whereas before, I used to do a bit of percussion here, a bit of percussion there. Like I'd put in a few effects in, and I'd get lazy and start repeating the same effects over and over because I was getting a bit too ahead of myself. And I felt like it's kind of rushed, and approaching it in a more methodical manner is just so much more pleasing for me, and it's giving myself better results. The track, in my opinion, is just more enjoyable to make. So yeah, I implore you to try this technique. Hopefully you enjoyed that little run through. As always, you can contact me on tuition at God, I can't speak today. I never can. As always, you can contact me on tuition at adamellisdj.com. I offer a one-to-one tuition. I've been doing it for 4 years now, and a really good thing going with that. With lots of very happy clients. So I'll stop rambling on now. Thank you for watching as always, and I look forward to next time. Cheers, guys.